Zoramthanga has started to take a strong position which does not resonate with Bharatiya Janata Party. So he has no truck with Bharatiya Janata Party in Mizoram, but he has not pulled out from NEDA. And Mizoram is primarily a Christian state. They're primarily a Christian state, which means that the Christians are in majority. But then if I play out his DP, Twitter DP, he has still kept his photograph of Prime Minister Narendra Modi in the DP. He hasn't changed that. He has given an interview, but Prime Minister Modi is still there. So Prime Minister Modi is still there. So the gentleman has not changed his DP. So the doors are open, but it's an open season. It's an election. You know, people do these things, and that's the most beautiful part. So my question is it a gimmick or something has changed? Brijesh, first to you before I go to Mr. Bhaumik, and then to Amitabh Tiwari. Boss, what's happening?
Well, I think, Zoramthanga is displaying all signs of how a pragmatic politician should behave when it comes so near to the election. Or the reason why, he was making all kind of tough statement about what was unraveling in the state of Manipur is because it was his constituency he was addressing to. And that is the reason why, when the government asked that, you should do a biometric attendance, which the Ministry of Home Affairs said, or that, that you should not take as many refugees as possible, he point blank refused the center. He has not pulled out of NEDA also. He has not removed his Twitter picture. So it's a very classic case of, that I am adopting this stage where I am telling broadcasters that I will not be sharing stage with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. He and I will not share the stage is basically a message to his core constituents that he has adopted a tough stance vis-a-vis the BJP. But he's not going to pull out of anything.
It's like, I read an article in context of Ashok Gehlot, which was in reference to the party high command culture of the Congress. And the author, the senior journalist, she wrote, people in Rajasthan were saying, Delhi ko aankh dikha di. So are you saying that those leaders are doing well, jo aankh dikha sakte hain Delhi ko, that sort of a thing?
Absolutely. I mean, he stood for his constituents. He made all those statements. You remember he tweeted that my blood boils and it will not be good for Manipur if they keep on doing what they are doing in the state. And he said that the BJP should rein in Manipur Chief Minister. So he made all the right kind of noises to make sure that, when the state which is going to go to election in less than 20 days will have, will the predominantly Christian community will look very, very favorably to Zoramthanga, view him as some sort of a savior in this particular election rather than this. And he also made, very clear in that interview, Kartikeya, that, elections are around the corner and there's no point I would want to lose the vote. So he's being pragmatic politicians like anything.
Okay. I'm also joined by senior journalist Subir Bhaumik and Amitabh Tiwari, political analyst. Mr. Bhaumik, what's your take on the sort of position which Zoramthanga has started to take before people cast their vote? What's the big picture, sir?
Well, let me tell you something at the very outset. It's not BJP's monopoly to play the religious card. So if they can turn a Meitei-Kuki conflict into a Hindu-Christian conflict, that's how they projected it in Manipur to retain their power base. Zoramthanga is now hitting them back in the same way, in the same coin. That's number one. Secondly, please don't forget that Zoramthanga's tensions with the BJP goes back 2 years back, if you remember, that there was a massive clash between the Mizoram police and the Assam police, and several Assam policemen were killed. The Mizoram police said that they were trying to forcibly take over a Mizoram police outpost. Now here, the big problem was between Assam Chief Minister, who is the heavyweight leader of BJP in Northeast, Himanta Biswa Sharma, and Zoramthanga. And Zoramthanga came out, the winner in that whole thing, because the Assam police got a very bad nose. They could not take over the outpost that they were claiming was theirs. And therefore, since then, on several issues, number one, the border issue between Assam and Mizoram. Number two, on the issue of whether to accept Chin refugees from Myanmar into Mizoram. Zoramthanga has opposed the center. Center has said they should not be allowed to come in. Zoramthanga has said they are our blood brothers, Chins, and it's true that the Chins, the Kukis of Manipur, the Chins of Myanmar, and the Mizos are the same larger ethnic Zo tribe. So again, Zoramthanga stood very strongly and oppose the BJP on this whole question. And so many thousands of these Chin refugees are there in Mizoram. Then when this Manipur crisis boiled over and the cookies were, suffering, Zoramthanga not only raised the whole issue of cookies, and then now he's saying Christians, but initially he said our cookie brothers are in trouble, center needs to do something. The perception in Mizoram and in other areas dominated by the Zo tribe is that Delhi has not taken care of the interests of the Zo tribes, which means the cookies in Manipur, they have suffered very badly. And there is also already the rumblings of Greater Mizoram in the Mizoram state, where a lot of Mizo politicians, including many in the MNF, are saying that if the cookies don't get justice in Manipur, the cookie areas of Manipur should be merged with Mizoram. So this is the revival of the Greater Mizoram demand. Zoramthanga here faces anti-incumbency because he has been in power for a while, and therefore in the fitness of things to beat anti-incumbency, he's not only playing the ethnic card now, he's playing the religious card. But here, these are things that the BJP does all the time. And Zoramthanga is trying to beat them in their own game. आप छक्का मारेंगे मेरे बॉल पे तो मैं भी मौका मिलेगा आपके बॉल पे छक्का मार दूंगा. ये किस्सा है. Secondly, you're right in a way when you said that the Congress is resurgent. Actually, in Mizoram, BJP is never a factor, except in some smaller tribal areas like the areas of the Chakmas, the Lais, and the Maras. In mainstream Mizo society, BJP is always a marginal force. And therefore, the fight is between MNF and Congress. Now, if Zoramthanga does not play this card, the Congress is likely to play. Don't forget, in 1989, I clearly remember Laltanwala, he was heading the Congress, he still heads the Congress. He played the card of Christian socialism. Laldenga was the chief minister, and Laldenga had, said no prohibition. It's Laltanwala, the Congress people, who raised the idea of Christian socialism, and they supported prohibition. Though Laltanwala personally enjoys his drink, but he is the one for political reasons. So for politics, you do all kinds of things. And here is a case where Zoramthanga is trying to beat his anti-incumbency by playing both the ethnic card, which means the Zo card, and as well as the Christian card. And to be fair, he's not doing something that the BJP does not do. So, the BJP can't crib now because this is the game that they play all the time. And the last point that I want to make here is that there are substantive different issues of differences between Zoramthanga and the MNF and the BJP. And it's not just the way the cookies have been treated in Manipur and the way the central government has, gone about defending them. There's a clear impression across the Christian tribes in Northeast that the BJP government in Delhi has been less than fair to their cause. But more importantly, here, there are other issues like the Burmese migration. There are other issues like, the smaller tribes in Mizoram. That's the BJP's power base, the Chakmas, who are Buddhists and who are against the Mizo domination. Now, these tribes have belatedly raised the demand that they want a separate union territory. Now, this is something that Zoramthanga is going to play up. See, his whole idea of joining hands with the BJP was to convert these smaller tribal votes into the MNF vote bank.
Correct.
Because normally these smaller tribes, like the Lais, the Maras, and especially the Chakmas, they never vote for MNF. They think MNF is a very heavyweight Mizo party. It's like the Hindi-speaking population and the Gorkhas in Bengal not voting for Trinamool Congress because it's seen as a very Bengali party. The same thing is there in Mizoram. Now here, if Zoramthanga realizes that by siding with the BJP is not going to get any additional, mileage in these areas, because these tribes are now talking of a separate union territory, then let's play the Christian card and the Mizo card very strongly and play the game of both ethnic and religious consolidation. And that's what Zoramthanga is doing.
So,
at the end of the day, Zoramthanga was a underground rebel leader. But in the last several years in power, he has learned Indian politics, and therefore he will play the game of the Panditjis, He will play the games that the Panditjis play. He's no longer the, sort of fighting, insurgent leader in the jungles with a gun in his hand. He's a, Panditji in his own way. So he's going to play this game.
So you are saying that he's become a political guru. The three things, very interesting, three things you have said, Mr. Bhaumik. Three very interesting things. The idea of a greater Mizoram, the lessons which Zoramthanga has learned from Bharatiya Janata Party, because the card, the so-called card, is not someone's monopoly. If someone plays an Hindu card, the other person can play their own card, then other person can play the caste card. So card is a card, whether it's a Hindu card, Christian card, caste card, tribal card. So that's the second most important point. And the third most important point is that BJP's constituency in that area was of the smaller tribes. Mr. Tiwari, but then it begets a question. It means that after 7-8 years of BJP's monopoly, suddenly you have a gentleman turning things around. Do you think that this is something which can create problem for Bharatiya Janata Party in a longer run? Because I recall the last Nagaland election I covered, the speeches which Kiran Rijiju gave was about food, culture, different positioning of Bharatiya Janata Party in Nagaland, and he was a different man speaking in Nagaland. He spoke a different language there, in the sense that it was not something I could hear a minister speak like this on the issue of culture to say in Shamli, Delhi. So do you think that it affects that larger rubric, or is just limited to, you say, well, just one state, Mizoram?
No, see, essentially in the Northeast, the BJP is in power in 4 states, which you mentioned, but it's also dependent upon allies in Mizoram, Nagaland, Sikkim and Meghalaya. So BJP is the junior partner in these states.